Hi, this is Anton Roger with APC Data Analytics. Welcome to this quick demo video of our next generation of software pricing tools developed by agents for agents. Every agent has their own login and they're pointed to their local MLS. On here we're on the Charleston, South Carolina regional MLS. Agents can create individual tabs for their clients for a specific property. All their old charts are here, but what we're going to do today is we're just going to step through and develop a new chart to show you how an agent can price a house. So if we click on new chart, they can go select a property. Let's say they put in a house at 123 Main Street they want to evaluate. So they simply click here. Now they select their search criteria. The agent's role is to pick the criteria that best fits to pick the most similar comps. So we're going to do single family detached. Year built can be used if they have a historical house or maybe a new construction. In this example, we're going to leave this blank. Subdivision, we can populate your local MLS subdivisions or areas. So on here, we're going to do a subdivision called Bell Hall. So when they select Bell Hall, they can add it to the list. And you can do multiple subdivisions. Price range, let's stay on the lower end of the neighborhood. So let's just stay below 525. Square footage, again, we're going to leave this blank for our analysis. Zip code would be used if there's not a subdivision and maybe you want to do a full map search. You can use a zip code. Date range, we default to 1 year. However, an agent can go in here and say, oh, I only need 6 months of comp. So they can go back and say, okay, July 9th is 6 months. Once they have their criteria here, and this criteria can be customized per MLS, but once they have their criteria and they hit search, what it's going to do, it's going to populate the results. So we see there's 6 active, 6 pending, and 13 closed. And these are all updated within the past hour from the MLS. So an agent can either select all these comps, or if they wanted to map around, they can map, just like they would in their MLS, a local set of comps that they would like to use. But let's say they just want to use all of them. They can clear the polygon. And if they want to use the 6 active, 6 pending, 13 closed, they simply hit Generate Chart. When they hit Generate Chart, what it does is it populates the data in a format of price versus square footage. So the price versus square footage, this blue house is a subject for property we're evaluating at 123 Main Street. Now the agent just entered a picture of the house and the square footage. So what we're doing is we're analyzing this subject property here. The reds are all the closed comps, the yellows are the under contracts or pendings, and the greens are the actives. So what an agent can do is if they're discussing with their seller, they can take away the pendings and actives and let's just display the closed comps for analysis. So the blue house being the subject property, this dark blue curve is basically the best fit of all the sold comps. So what this curve is telling us, if you're an average house in this neighborhood, depending on the square footage, you will close along this curve here. So an average close will close right on this curve. So this house here that's on the curve would have been a typically average house. What we also do is we create pricing bands for agents. So we know with the data analytics, this neighborhood, most of the comps are going to close within this first band here. So you can see where these closed comps are. A majority of the homes will close in here, with these maybe being slightly above average, slightly below average. But if the outside band, almost all the comps will close within this range. If houses are closing up in this range here, they are definitely a superior house in the neighborhood. If they're down here, maybe there's some issues with the house, condition, quality, maybe the lot isn't as nice as some of the other ones, so they will close down in this range. Now if we put back the pendings on here, so here's the 6 under contract, so you can see where they fall. However, we are not using this in the analysis of the data at this point because we don't know what they're closing for yet. But visually we wanted to show where they're closing relative to this curve. And then we can also populate the actives. So you can see how high a lot of the actives are on here, and it's a visual way to show where they're priced. Now, if this is our subject property we're evaluating, we give the agent the option to go through all the pictures. So they can scroll on any one of these houses. It has all the data down here, days on market, year built, list price, sales price, but they can also go through any of the pictures that are provided in the MLS. And this is critical whether you're working with a buyer or seller. You can show them the houses surrounding and how they compare to those houses. Now, on the analysis, this blue house, the midpoint price is $405,379, but we give the agent a range. So we're saying if you're an average house in this neighborhood, here's the range you're going to close at 1,850 square feet. But we know not every house is average. So when we look at the list, we want the agent to evaluate 4 criteria: site, layout, condition, and quality. When we first run the analysis, we're assuming those 4 characteristics are average across the board. However, an agent can say, well, the subject property I'm evaluating, let's say it's on a cul-de-sac and maybe it has a nice private wooded lot, they can change the rating. So let's say they change it, it's one of the nicest lots in the neighborhood, and they change the lot from a 3-star to a 5-star. As soon as they do that, what the program is going to do is going to change the analysis on the chart, but also change the value for them. But the key is it's keeping them within this range, where most of the homes are going to have some positive and some negative characteristics and can close within this range. So they can evaluate each one of these criteria here and give them a new value based off their ratings. We also look at seasonality. So today is January 9th, and we know from a seasonality curve for Charleston where we lie in that seasonality curve based off today's date. So we can take any one of these closed comps. Let's just take this one as an example. So this one closed on July 25th. So July 25th closing, what we're doing is we're relating how does January 9th, today's analysis, compare on a seasonal basis to closing July 25th. So the way we do the analytics, if we go to the analytics tab, you can see on here the seasonality adjustment was actually down $6,393 compared to all the 13 closed comps. So what we're analyzing, we're saying, well, based off this time of year, if you're saying we're trying to sell the house on January 9th, you're taking a discount because of the seasonality compared to the set of closed comps, because you have to remember the closed comps closed July, August, September, October in this time period. So we're adjusting down for seasonality. At the same time, we're looking at market conditions. So in market conditions, we're simply looking at supply and demand. We're looking at how many closed in the past 6 months, how many are under contract, and how many are currently active. So when we do that analysis, we know that we're roughly closing 2 a month. We have 6 for sale and 6 under contract. So we're looking at that as a very positive market for the sellers, meaning we believe it's still appreciating compared to historical appreciation, depreciation compared to months of inventory. So what we're doing in that regards is we're giving a credit to the house of $3,581 saying, well, we believe the market is still increasing in value, so we're giving a credit to the subject property based off of some of these comps closed a month, 2 months, 3 months ago. So the property adjustments is where we adjusted the site higher. So we're giving a positive adjustment of $13,082 based off the lot being one of the best lots in the neighborhood. So this gives us our estimated market value range here, the 415 to 421. So this is our final decision on value based off our analysis. However, we also wanted to provide the agent a suggested list price, because too often a seller might say, well, I'm in agreement on this price, however, let's try $450,000 and see what happens. So what we're saying is, here's our suggested list price to achieve this market value, because we know the sales price to list price for this neighborhood is 97.89. So list here to sell here, but then we also give a probability of sale. So down here on the left, what we're looking at is if you go with our suggested list price, you have a high probability of selling in a limited number of days. However, as the example I gave earlier, if they say, well, I want to try $450,000 and see what happens, you can simply show them on this analysis, look, if we go in that $450,000 range, there's a very little chance that you're going to sell, and it's going to take a long time just to find out you're not going to sell. So let's stay on the realistic end of list price to give ourselves a high probability of selling. We also analyze days on market. However, days on market, we are not looking at an average days on market. What we're looking at is days on market from the final list price. So this 16 days on average, what that represents is average days on market from when the house was priced correctly. So let's say one of these comps was on the market for 200 days, and they made 4 price changes, but after the 4th price change they sold in 15 days, the number we're using is the 15. We are not using that 200 because that's a bad data point to prove a house that didn't sell because it was overpriced. So we know with confidence that this neighborhood should sell in about 16 days on average if we're at the correct list price. So the conversation with the seller up front is, okay, 2 to 3 weeks in, if we haven't sold, we probably need to change our price. Here's the sales price to list price again, but then we also talk about price per square foot. However, we are not averaging price per square foot. So on here, what we're doing is we're doing the curve analysis because we know this 1,850 square foot house will sell for $226 a square foot. However, if we go change and say this 1,416 square foot house, we give the agent the ability to come down here and change which house they're evaluating. So we'll change it to the 1416. We update the chart, and as soon as we do that, it's putting the house here evaluating this house. Now, when we do that, the price per square foot, we know if we're going smaller, that price per square foot should go up. If we go larger, it should go down. So at 1,416 square feet, what we're analyzing is we know that's $260 a square foot. So it's a big difference in price per square foot, again, but we're not talking about the average. We also have a map format on here. So in the map format, we have all the data points geo-coordinated. An agent can scroll over any one of the data points. They can look at pictures on here as well. We have the list format. So in the list format, we have actives, pendings, and closed. So if we look at the closed sales, we have all the data on that. We can look at pictures on here, delete from this list as well. We also created a notes tab. So in the notes tab, what we're doing is we're customizing scripts for agents based off this specific chart. So this analysis here gives us this script. So everything I've been discussing, talking about seasonality and market conditions, days on market, anything on here is scripted so an agent can basically read this information and learn it so they can convey to their buyer or seller clients what is going on with the market specific to their house. We also have a report format. So in the report format, an agent can upload a picture of their client's house, their information, a logo, their picture, and it puts everything in a report format that can be emailed as a PDF or printed out as well. And this is only 7 or 8 pages long. It's not an 80-page report that the sellers are going to gloss over after page 8. So what we've also done on here is if we go back, you can email this to your client, your buyer or seller. So when you email this to your client, it's fully interactive. They can scroll over all the pictures, they can look at the data. Now, it's a read-only, so they can't change anything. They can't change dates, they can't change any of the comps. It's all a read-only to the client. If they made any errors in their search, they simply go hit modify search, they go right back and they can make some changes. This is a quick overview and video of our new generation pricing tool developed for agents. If you have any further questions, please go to our website, pricing.apcdata.net, for any further questions on how to use in your MLS. Thank you for your time.